What's up everybody, another beautiful day in the Dragon Isles. There's been a lot of buzz lately about the new gearing system in 10.1. Is it too good? Not good enough? Now keep in mind everyone plays the game differently and at different levels, so my thoughts about it might not be at all what other players are experiencing. But taking a look at it from my point of view, we're at week 3 into season 2 and as of writing this, my gearing is done-ish. I have a few eye level upgrades to get from the very end of mythic raiding and a very rare trinket that eludes me, also from the raid. But from M+, the only upgrade I can get is a pair of wrists, which is a whooping 0.1% upgrade. Ugh. But Stankie, surely you can get upgrades from the vault. Well, if I cap out 20 plus keys, I can get 447 items from the vault, and I can get between 200 and 400 DPS, and this is from 5 items in total. And the odds of getting any of those is extremely slim. If it happens, cool. If it doesn't, well, at least sockets are great. And to be fair, sockets is actually going to be a bigger upgrade than any of those items. So yeah, pretty much the only thing of value right now from vault is sockets, unless I happen to get tier pieces at 447, which again wouldn't be a huge DPS increase. And the same is true from raid really. The only thing that's a big upgrade for me is 1 or 2 trinkets from the raid and a few item level increase pieces on tier. Now overall I am conflicted with how I feel about this. On the one hand, I love being done with the gearing fast as I can focus on other things, and as of late I tend to mostly mythic raid and every now and then push a few high keys if I feel like it, but I don't do a ton of alts or other things right now. So it's just my good old enhancement slapper I need to gear and keep up to date. And being pretty much done with that 2 weeks into the season is a bit polarizing, since I do really like the gearing and min-maxing process of that, chasing a few items, working for the power growth to a certain extent of course. Now do not get me wrong, I like this system a ton more than the old one. Like tons more. But perhaps there's a happy medium to keep things a bit more interesting for a while longer. But also there's the issue with itemization between M+ and raid and different classes and specs, which is very much still a problem even with this loot system, since a few specs heavily rely on weapons and trinkets from raid to reach their max potential. And when those items are gated behind only being able to kill the boss once a week, and on top of that being very rare, a lot of issues starts creeping in. Take warlocks for example, they gain a very good chunk of damage from their class trinkets from the raid, which is very rare. And this trinket as an enhancement shaman is also a good chunk of damage. However, not nearly as much as a warlock, so being in a mythic raiding guild, I will naturally not get this trinket until our warlocks have it or I luck out and get it in my vault. So first of all it has to drop, then it has to drop again, and then after that perhaps I can get it. Now thinking back on the last raid, Vault of the Incarnates, a few of y'all might have chased the icon trinket the entire season, or like me, the eggnog ring. I saw it drop once in mythic, one time for the entire tier, and we were like 15 people who needed it. Yay! So with the new loot system you'll be able to gear extremely fast, except if there's a raid item you really need to make your spec shine. Well, then it's back to sheer dumb luck. A better system would perhaps be to add on to the new system some type of currency we can farm on a weekly basis to eventually be able to acquire those raid or M+ items, like the dinar system in the last patch of Shadowlands, something along the line of that, so that even if your gear is all decked out in 2 weeks, you'd still have incentive to keep on farming and filling your vault, as it would bring you closer to acquiring that super item that just refuses to drop. Take a look at Hunters last season with the bow from Rasagath. Until they reworked or nerfed it, you were so far behind on damage compared to a hunter with that bow, and a lot of them spent months trying to get it. I know one hunter in my guild got it from Mythic 1 week before the new raid released. So they'd mostly just hope it dropped or they'd get it in the vault. I mean, imagine spending months trying to get an item, hoping it drops from the vault or hoping it drops from the boss and it just doesn't. And you know your spec really needs it. That is not a good feeling. It's horrible. Just knowing that, oh hey, my gear is awesome, but my damage is still dog because I'm lacking that one item. It just happens to be more rare than my father's affection. Now, Word Up posted a pretty interesting take on a revamped loot system using the current system currencies, the different crests and upgrades, but reducing the amount acquired and being able to trade X amount of heroic/mythic crests for 1 dinar to spend on an item like a very rare trinket. So then as you acquire more crests, you'd be able to upgrade your gear with crests, or buy new gear but not upgrade, or craft an item using the crest but not upgrade or buy a new one. It would open up a lot more possibilities and would mean you wouldn't get decked out in an instant, but also if you're a class or spec who has an incredibly broken item from raid, or perhaps max level M plus vault, 447, well then you can acquire that item by sacrificing some upgrades or a craft. So a lot more choices, a lot more min-maxing. You could also put the catalyst in there for tier and have it open week 1, but for the first couple of weeks, like 4 or 6 weeks, you'd have to pay crests for it. So again, you'd have to choose between, do I want to upgrade some of my gear? Do I want to craft a new item, buy an item, or make a tier piece? This would also help the poor PvP community get their hands on tier set faster, as currently the only way they can achieve it is by lucking out in their PvP vault or grinding M+ in raids, which a lot of them don't want to. They want to play what they want to play, and I do get that sentiment, as I sure as hell do not want to set a foot inside PvP. So whenever we've had to do arena or something for gear, I've absolutely hated it. And I assume the same is true for them, but for PvE. Now, we already have the crest system in place, so all Blizzard gotta do is add on to it, which I assume they plan to, we just don't know how. And yeah, obviously tweak the amounts you get to where it would make sense. Perhaps buying a heroic item week 1 is a tad too strong, so they'd have to have different costs for different things. Nothing new really. Perhaps you can upgrade week 1 or save crests for 3 weeks and then you can buy a heroic item. I don't know, I'm not a developer. So a revamped system like that would put a lot more agency into players' hand when it comes to gearing and take away a lot of the really annoying RNG, but also make the crest system relevant for a longer time. Again, taking myself as an example, this week I've spent 0 crest, no heroic, no mythic, and next week I'll spend a few mythic to craft an item and potentially a few more if a trinket happens to drop, unless it drops on mythic. And after that, most if not all crest will just take up bag space. I am done. I don't need you. Why are you taking up bag space? Again, don't get me wrong, I don't mind being decked out and geared. That's awesome, but I do much more prefer a slightly slower gearing where there's more choice to be made and where crests stay relevant for a lot longer. Now, adding on to that, a lovely healer in my guild also raised the issue of tertiary stats. When you're pushing really high keys, for example, after a while you kinda need avoidance to survive certain bosses on Tyrannical or certain trash things. You just need avoidance. And also healers overall tends to love leech as a stat, but there is no feasible way to actually farm tertiary stats unless you want it on low level items. So why not put that into the mix as well to make the vault or weekly stuff even more rewarding for more players? Instead of only being able to buy a socket, you could buy a tertiary stat and slap it on your item. Would help a ton with min-maxing gear late game. Because most of us, first couple of weeks, we will not spend stuff on avoidance. That just won't happen. But late game, when we're all decked out, that is something we would very much like to do. So yeah, again, I really enjoy the new system in 10.1, but due to me enjoying it that much, I also see a lot of improvements that could be made with the current system in place. And I feel like it's important to talk about that, even if you're pleased with the current system. Just because it's good doesn't mean aiming for awesome is a bad thing.
Just be happy that it's better.
Screw you, it could be awesome. And that pretty much wraps up this little opinion piece or rant, if you will. I would love to hear all of y'all's thoughts and experiences with the new system. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Or do you just want to bring back classic loot table and DKP? Let me know. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't forget the usual stuff. Comment, like, subscribe, and make sure to ring that notification bell. It helps me out a ton. And if you want to help support my work, do check out my Patreon. As a patron, you can get access to the Stankie Discord, shoutouts and videos, or coaching, among other things. I also stream progression and testing on Twitch, Stankie Gaming. Feel free to hop on by and spam me with questions. And yeah, thank you all for watching. I will see you next time.